G'day. I've had access to a lot of 3D printing technology through my workplaces over the last 15 years or so, and 3D printing is a tool which I have come to take for granted. I'm pretty excited today because for the first time ever, I've actually purchased my own 3D printer. Having access to some really good equipment at my previous workplaces, I've always had probably a bit of a negative attitude towards low budget 3D printers. Both of my previous workplaces had Stratasys F170 3D printers, and for FDM 3D printing, those machines have been really good to work with, and they kind of spoils me a bit. In my new workplace, however, I inherited 5 of the early model Ender 3 Creality 3D printers, and when I first saw them, I was a little bit underwhelmed, but what I've found is that I've actually been very impressed by the performance of the Ender 3s. Obviously, it's very difficult to compare a $50,000 3D printer with an entry-level hobby-grade machine, but overall, the build quality has been quite good. In terms of reliability, I found the Ender 3s required a lot more tinkering, but the tinkering's not difficult. Anyway, after having worked with the Ender 3s for the last 6 months and found them to produce really effective prints, despite needing a bit of tinkering, and realizing the cost of these, which is so affordable. For this reason, I've decided to go out and get my own 3D printer, and I'm going to share with you my experience of opening it up, putting it together and getting it working. Anyway, here it is. I'm expecting a fair bit of assembly because it does come in a pretty small box. As you can see, Jaycar had this on sale for $250. For me, is very affordable. I'm going to open this up. Doesn't look like it's too complicated to put together. I reckon a few screws here, handful of screws around here, screw the spool holder on the top there, plug in a few connectors. I don't know if you think I should be reading the instructions. I probably should, I guess. In terms of what it's come with, handful of screws in bags, an SD card reader, and of course your standard little nippers. This should be a standard issue on every FDM 3D printer and probably every resin one as well. Well, the first thing it says to do is to install the gantry. 6 longer screws that come through from the bottom into the gantry, and then 2 screws that come down from above down here. So I'll lay this over on its side, and you can see up in here where the 6 screws go into the bottom of the gantry. Next step is to install the display. That just goes on the side here. This is pretty important. We run on 240 here in Australia. All right, the last thing to mount up is the filament spool holder. Next to go in is these extruder wires. They're going to plug in up here. Slot here. I'm going to push this wiring harness up through underneath the top of the gantry, then over and into the connector in here. I've got 2 little fold out retainers. The X-axis motor wire comes out of the same harness. Hiding under the build plate here is the Y-axis stepper motor wire. Switch for the power supply has been turned already over to 230 side. Lastly, I'm going to put the wires in for the screen. The next thing is to plug this thing into the mains and switch it on. After heating up, it's now doing some sort of nozzle cleaning. Now it's moved on to doing a Z offset, and now it is leveling, which is terrific. I love the fact that it does this all automatically. For a $250 machine to be doing all of this, it's probing 16 places on the bed. For the first time this morning, I had to press a button. And when I picked up this printer this morning, I also picked up really cool looking trichromatic filament. I can't wait to see what this print comes out like using this. I'm going to load this material into the printer, print my first 3D print. When it's finished, I'll show you what it looks like. Two and a half hours later, and I've come out to what seems to be an almost finished successful print. You can see here this print is nearly done, and on the screen here it says it's got 12 minutes left. It's looking pretty good. There's a couple little tags of filament hanging out the sides here. I'm really liking the finish on this. It's got this really nice shine to it. I'm really impressed. Less than a minute left. This whole print has taken less than 2 hours. When I sliced it, the slicer program told me this was going to take about 2.5 hours, so the printer has been faster than expected. So it's now finished. Total print time was 1 hour and 52 minutes. One thing I do like about these is that magnetic plate, which is a really nice idea. There's a couple of straggly bits around here. I think this file has a bit of an overhang in it, but overall that part just looks really nice. The colour is amazing of this tricolour material. We've had a little rest for a couple of minutes. Now it's time to get back into action. Based on my first print, so far, so good. I've been pretty happy with my printer so far. I don't expect this printer is going to get a lot of rest. I always seem to be printing things or needing to print things for other people. I'm pretty glad I lashed out this morning and paid the $250. I think it's a bargain to pick up a machine so cheaply that did quite a good job on its first print, and hopefully will continue to do heaps more good jobs in the future. That's enough for now. See you later.